Well, guys, Supergirl has come out, the next DC installment of James Gunn's DCU. And does it hit like it needs to continue elevating and moving towards a bigger DC universe? No. This movie is a letdown, and it's something that I think is going to bring the DCU to a complete halt. A complete halt. Um, we're going to get into it, right? I'm going to give you my review, my general thoughts. I'm going to give you my report card of my grade of the movie and some of the aspects of it. But and I knew I've known about the story this is adapted off of. It's a very popular, super huge Supergirl story, one of the best out there. I've known some people that have read it. I myself have not, but uh, from what I understand, this is a pretty poor adaptation of that story. Poor adaptation of the story. Um, I'll say right off the bat, general thoughts. I don't totally know what the story was trying to tell, what they were going for, what the direction and the writing was going for, as far as where we were supposed to feel about, how we were supposed to feel about Supergirl by the end of the movie. Right? It feels more like it was just trying to introduce us to the character they want us to know. It didn't feel like we were going to experience a big change in character, thing like that. I just don't understand what they were going for at all. It doesn't make a lot of sense by the end of the movie. Um, I'll just get right into my grades, right? So first up is story. For story, I'm going to give this a C. A C, an average story. It's telling a basic emotional revenge story. They use the dog Crypto being wounded as like the emotional driving point in the movie. It ends up really not being all that effective. Um, this revenge tour story where they're both Supergirl and Ruth or Ruthie, the kind of other side supporting character. They're both kind of Supergirl and her on a revenge tour for their own reasons, but Supergirl's trying to hold back on the revenge aspect of it and help Ruthie avoid that. And so, overall, by the end, the story's average. It's not awful in the sense there's aspects of this movie that are bad, but the story is average. It's telling an average revenge story, but you don't get like a John Wick revenge story. You get something very baseline, and I don't think that it has all that satisfying of a conclusion. Next, so we got story at C. We have visuals as a B. So obviously, it's a modern day movie, so the visuals, for the most part, will be pretty good. Here's what I'll say. They do practical effects and aliens really well. You feel the outer spaceness of it, and you feel the vibe they're trying to give off using those practical effects. They're actually using practical effects better than Star Wars is, I'd say, currently, as far as creating this outer space feeling galaxy. And so that's a really good aspect of the movie. I would say that, character designs like Lobo look really good. Jason Momoa's Lobo is good. Um, but the visual tone of the movie, especially based off of what they were going for, basing off of the book, the tone is so gray and dark and gritty. The locations they go to feel very much the same, very just bleh. There's not a lot of like, oh, you're on a planet that's very light and colorful, but then you're also on a planet that's dark and what. It is all just kind of monotone colored for some reason. Whoops. Next would be characters. Characters are a C. They're average. I don't get into Supergirl too much. She starts off in a low point, which is fine. But by the end, I kind of wanted her to be in a more believable, different space, and I don't feel like she gets there. So she's like, I like her. I don't dislike her, but she doesn't like elevate as a character for me throughout the movie. Ruthie as a side character is frustrating because I hate this trope, and they use this trope, which is you have this really awesome character, powerful character who gets kind of bogged down by a character who's useless and a kid that's useless. And that's essentially what Ruthie is in this movie. It's like Omega in the Bad Batch. It just drives me crazy when you have a kid that is constantly in trouble, finds themselves in a helpless situation. It's frustrating. And so Ruthie's just, she's an annoying character and she doesn't really develop into something more cool. Like Omega in Bad Batch, for example, she, if you know what I'm talking about, she starts off for a couple seasons kind of being a very useless character. Eventually, she trains and becomes cool and is able to support herself. But in this, it's just a single movie, and Ruthie doesn't get there really. Jason Momoa is the shining point as far as a character that makes sense and looks good and is played well, written well for the moments he's in there. The villain, though, out of all the characters focused on and what's bringing this to an average, if I'm being probably generous, grade for characters is that, man, this villain, Clem, so, basic space pirate. He's evil and he does evil things because he's evil. There's nothing to him. And that's okay if you're going to have the most basic bad guy ever, but then your other characters have to be elevating the story. And man, this villain is boring. He's boring. He's lame. He's uninteresting. He talks dumb. He's not compelling in really any way at all. Not compelling at all. He's just evil and does evil things, and you just don't like him because of that. Um, doesn't hit anywhere really as a villain. You know, a lot of people complain about old school well, really just Marvel in general, their villains in movies all the way back to Phase 1. Some of the villains. But like if you compare all the Marvel villains from all these different movies they've created, this villain is like the lowest tier compared to all of them. So ineffective, basic, boring, there's nothing there. All right, themes. The theme of the movie, kind of what they're trying to portray, what the lessons learned. What's that grade? That grade's an F. That grade's an F. It is absolutely atrocious. Atrocious, the theme of the movie. And I'm not going to get into spoilers. Stick around, watch my spoiler review so we can discuss these things a little further. But the theme that they're going for, this getting revenge, but ultimately not learning that revenge is not the way. That's kind of what they're going for, right? We're on a revenge tour, but Supergirl's better than that, right? Like you can feel that from the beginning of the movie that is where it's going. I will not get into anything, but they do not succeed in telling this theme. And those who have seen it know exactly what I'm talking about by the end of the movie. There is no lesson learned. There is no character development, as I've said. The theme could have been good. And because of it's such a failure at the end of the movie, it's an F. It is an absolute fail. There's nothing. There's no lesson learned here at all. Next will be sound of the movie. What's my grade on that? C. It's a C. It's forgettable. There's nothing memorable about it. The music choices don't always fit. It definitely feels like it's going for a Guardians of the Galaxy vibe at times. And I'll say, I think the James Gunn DCU is always going to have music in it, right? Like that's kind of his thing. It's a staple. And unfortunately in this one, I would say that the soundtrack doesn't do anything for us here. Doesn't hit, doesn't have a song that you're going to remember after seeing it. So it's average. It's not terrible. I wouldn't say I was super taken out by music, but I was not brought in by it either. So, C. Next, we'll talk about the rewatchability. Would I go back and rewatch this movie? Probably can tell by the way I'm talking about it, but no, I would not rewatch it. It's not really even worth seeing in theaters, unfortunately, which is kind of a letdown. Definitely let down. Not cinematic, really. There's not moments where it's like, ooh, you have to see that on the big screen. So I would not rewatch this movie. And overall direction, it's average. The direction of the movie, it's okay. I might be being generous in that. The fact that they were adapting a story and did so poorly definitely brings that down for me. There was nothing about it where I was like, oh, bad. These were obviously bad shots or bad whatever. I would say there are some cool shots of when Supergirl is flying or whatever. Like they do some very comic booky effects, where she's kind of the zoomed in part and the blurry behind. I think they do some of that stuff well, but it's average directing at best, poor adaptation of a well loved story. And so, with all these grades in mind, my report card, which you see, the overall grade, I'm going to give it like a C minus at being nice. It's probably more of a D, but I'm trying to be nice. C minus. It's below average. C's an average probably, so C minus would be below average. It is it's a big letdown. We are in an era where we really want the DCU to take off. And we haven't totally understood, I'd say overall, as an audience, the direction we're going. With Superman obviously being the first movie, and that's a great choice as far as launching your universe. But Supergirl, who's a much less popular character um, in it, uh, or in the universe, like it's kind of an interesting choice for second movie. Then Clayface being your third movie, I don't really know where they're going. They're not going to have box office successes as huge successes with these low tier characters, though I think Clayface could be really good based on the trailers. But this could have been good, and it's a big letdown. And so the grade's a C minus at best. Big letdown. I will say something I thought about: Superman's little cameos in this movie. Great. He's a great Superman. You'll love him. He's wholesome. He's kind and gentle and caring, and you can feel that in every line of dialogue that David gives off as his Superman character. I can't wait to see more of him. Superman 2 is something I'm excited about, but they do need to start ramping up this universe because we're not doing what Marvel did, right? Like we are not off to a great start, I would say. And so Supergirl being the second staple movie of DCU, it definitely makes you worried as a DC superhero fan going forward. Um, but yeah, C minus. I'll get into some spoilers now. Well, not now, but check out my other video if you want to see some of my spoilers, my getting into the decisions that ultimately led me to give the grade I did. But thanks for watching. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Would love to hear from you guys and hear what your thoughts are after leaving the theater. But have a good one.